All right, today we're jumping into a story of truly cosmic scale. We're going to piece together the history of a solar system that was literally torn apart by an ancient, forgotten war, all based on the fantastic sci-fi saga, the Solar System Chronicle. So let's just start with an idea that completely flips the script on what we think we know about our solar system. What if that big ring of rock and ice out there between Mars and Jupiter, what if it isn't just space debris? What if it's actually a scar? The tombstone of an entire world we never knew existed? Well, in this story, that's exactly what it was. 3 billion years ago, there was no asteroid belt. There was Vatria, a planet a bit bigger than our own Earth. And it wasn't just some barren rock, It was a cradle for intelligent life, and its legacy would get passed on to its planetary neighbors. Vatria's legacy really fell to the two rising superpowers in this ancient solar system, the civilizations on Mars and Venus. They became the heirs to this lost world, and, as it turns out, they would become the architects of their own destruction. And these two worlds could not have been more different. I mean, the contrast was just wow. In one corner, you've got Mars, or Eris, as they called it. It's this lush paradise, home to 8 billion people, and their whole society is built on honor, discipline, and just plain survival. And in the other corner, Venus, or Tessarion, a massive technocracy of 12 billion people, where everything was about luxury, cyber enhancements, and, interestingly, the art of deception. So the Martians, they organized themselves into this concord of 5 different nations. And you can see how this structure really reflected their focus on collective survival. Each nation had a super clear, specialized job. You had Valkyria handling diplomacy, Dracos Prime as the military muscle, and so on. They were all working together. Venusian society, on the other hand, was just a total spectacle of technological ambition. Their civilization was built around these unbelievable megacities. I mean, some were on land, but then you had Aetheris, a whole city literally floating on the oceans, and Zyra, which was a dazzling holographic metropolis. It was a culture defined by centralized power and tech fused into every part of life. And we're not just talking about different cultures here. These were incredibly advanced civilizations with technologies on a scale that's kind of hard to wrap your head around. And with that kind of power, well, it came with weapons that could literally rewrite the solar system. Let's start with the big one, the gravity weapon. This thing wasn't a bomb. It was a tool of cosmic engineering. They built it on Vatria using these old alien blueprints, and it could manipulate space-time to physically grab a planet and just pull it out of its orbit. And to give you a sense of that power, think about this. It could fling an entire world through the void at 250 kilometers per second. That's the ability to turn a planet into a weapon, use another one as a shield, or just, erase it from the sky completely. But as crazy as that is, they had something else, something that was maybe even more profound, the life machine. This was a technology with the terrifying dual ability to either wipe a planet clean of all life in an instant, or to sow the seeds of brand new life from nothing. It was the power of a god, split into 2 devices. So you have these societies, you have these devastating weapons. The stage was absolutely set for a conflict that would be over in the blink of a cosmic eye. The entire war, from start to finish, lasted only 1 month. And the thing that kicked it all off wasn't greed or hate or any of the usual suspects. It was desperation. The leaders on Venus figured out that a rogue planet was on a collision course with them. It was centuries away, but it was inevitable. So, what was their solution? Use the gravity weapon to put Mars right in its path. The chain reaction was just horrifying, and it was so fast. First, Venus fires the weapon, but not at Mars. They aim it at Vatria, the planet where it all began. They yank it out of orbit and send it hurtling toward Mars. And for the next few weeks, while this planet-sized bullet is flying through space, Venus just pummels Mars with asteroids. Then, in the final hours, Martian scientists find their own hidden replica of the weapon. They fire it. They manage to deflect the Tria at the last possible second. It's a miracle. They're saved from a direct hit. But the gravitational shear from the near miss is so violent, it rips their atmosphere away. And the deflected Vatria? It's now heading straight for Venus. So, just like that, in 30 days, 3 worlds were either destroyed or changed forever. But from the ashes of this complete catastrophe, 2 very different futures were born. Civilization didn't totally end, though.
In the last moments before Vatria smashed into Venus, that Martian scientist, Zyra, used the life machine not for destruction, but for creation. She sent her and her partner's DNA out into space, DNA that would drift for eons and eventually seed life on a quiet, primitive little world called Earth. At the exact same time, a secret ark, the Celestara, whisked survivors from both Mars and Venus away from the chaos, setting off on a long journey to the stars.
And that brings us to the future, our future. 3 billion years pass. The story is completely forgotten, buried under layers of cosmic dust. And humanity, the descendants of that final desperate act of creation, rises on Earth. And by the year 2070, we begin to return to the red planet. And there, while they're building new homes on the world of their long-lost ancestors, they find something. A bunker. And inside, waiting silently for millennia, is the very weapon that both saved and doomed ancient Mars. A fully functional replica of the gravity weapon. Which of course leaves us with one final massive thought. If our very existence, the origin of all life on Earth, is the result of a planetary war, a desperate act of creation born from total destruction, what does that mean for us, for our future? Now that we found the weapon that started it all, what kind of future are we going to choose?